And now, what are some of the most common PPAP
Mm.
challenges that you see or that you've dealt with?
Personally, in my experience here, I would say the most common issue is like misalignment between the customer requirements and the factory's understanding. And I think that's where everyone having a general idea of what a PPAP is and the steps that go into it and the right questions to ask the customer really are important because we want to make sure that we have all the information that we can to feed back to the factory so they are able to meet all of the requirements of the end user and us from the first time. Sometimes you'll see missing documents. Sometimes you'll see like process capability. It's called CPK. That goes back to your measurement system analysis, right? So that's a review of a specific dimension, typically a critical dimension, and you're looking at the tolerance ranges. And those things can sometimes slip out of whack essentially. And we'll also see on customer prints where they specify a CPK range that they need the parts to measure in. So you could have parts that are all measuring in spec, but because they have maybe some wider tolerance gaps, the CPK number that is provided from the document doesn't align with what the customer is going to accept. And what that would tell us is we need to go back, we need to remeasure parts, we need to look at the tooling, we need to make sure that the tolerances are brought more into standard because if they're already very out of line, they're only going to get worse as the parts continue production. Um, we talked about missing documents, but sometimes you can also see the incorrect documents being provided, right? Um, and so there are times where we want to see all of the calibration data of the goods that are used at the factory level to validate the goods. So there's a lot of documents that go into this, and you really have to comb through it to make sure that upon submission you are giving the customer everything they're looking for. And then finally, another kind of pain point sometimes is customer specific templates. Larger customers, especially, are going to be the ones that are requesting PPAPs. And occasionally, they will want it all done on their own template. So sometimes that's as easy as just providing that template to the factory as they're completing the PPAP, or occasionally we will have to uh, take all of the factory's provided PPAP information and transpose it into the customer specific templates. Now that can provide some issues if the customer specific templates maybe are more they're more detail heavy than a typical PPAP submission document. So it doesn't happen often, but those are the things that I personally am looking out for when I'm reviewing every